What if the United States had never existed? What if, instead of speaking English, the dominant language of the Americas was Mandarin? And what if the first people to build a transoceanic empire weren't European at all? In the early 1400s, while Europe still struggled with feudal wars and fragmented kingdoms, one civilization already possessed the size, the ships, and the vision to cross the Pacific: Imperial China. But they stopped. So today, we ask, what if China had discovered America first and stayed? The world we live in might be almost unrecognizable. China in the 15th century wasn't just powerful, it was dominant. Under the Ming Dynasty, the empire had recently expelled the Mongols and was undergoing a cultural and economic renaissance. Silk, porcelain, and tea flowed along the revived Silk Road. But more importantly, the Chinese were building ships unlike anything Europe had ever seen. Led by the legendary Admiral Zheng He, the Chinese Navy launched 7 massive expeditions between 1405 and 1433. His treasure ships were 400 feet long, 4 times the size of Columbus's Santa Maria. These weren't mere scouting missions. They were floating cities, complete with troops, diplomats, doctors, and interpreters. In 1433, after Zheng He's final voyage, the Chinese court ordered an abrupt halt to all overseas expeditions. The treasure ships were left to rot, the records were destroyed, naval innovation stopped dead in its tracks. Why? Because the Confucian bureaucrats saw maritime adventures as wasteful and destabilizing. The new emperor feared that expansion would empower rivals. And so, the ocean, once the highway of the future, became a forbidden frontier. Now imagine this. What if that hadn't happened? What if Zheng He had launched just one more voyage across the Pacific? It's not as far-fetched as it sounds. Chinese shipbuilding technology was more than capable of a trans-Pacific journey. Let's say Zheng He lands in the Americas around 1435, nearly 60 years before 1492. Who does he meet? Not empty lands, but thriving civilizations. The Aztecs in central Mexico were rising fast. The Incas in the Andes were building the foundations of their empire. The Mississippian cultures in North America had already erected complex trade networks. Chinese emissaries arrive not with swords but with scrolls. They offer silk, metal tools, rice cultivation, and astrology. And in return, they encounter maize, potatoes, tomatoes, tobacco, and possibly even gold. Rather than violent conquest, the Chinese opt for their tried-and-true model: tribute and exchange. They establish coastal enclaves, part trade ports, part diplomatic outposts. By the 1500s, Europe finally stumbles into the New World, only to find that China is already there. Spanish explorers don't encounter gold-rich empires ripe for conquest. They find fortified Chinese ports, interconnected trade routes, and native rulers speaking both Nahuatl and Mandarin. Imagine Hernán Cortés sailing into Veracruz and being politely refused entry by a Chinese-backed Aztec bureaucracy. The balance of power flips. With direct access to American resources, China no longer needs Middle Eastern intermediaries. The Ming Empire becomes the central hub of a new global economy, stretching from the Andes to Beijing. Silver from Peru flows into Chinese mints. Maize transforms Chinese agriculture. Chinese writing spreads across the Pacific Rim. Fast forward to the 1700s. There is no British America, no Jamestown, no Mayflower. Instead, the eastern seaboard of North America might be divided into independent native confederacies, like the Iroquois League, trading directly with Chinese merchants. The concept of a United States might never emerge. Alternatively, a syncretic society might form, Neo-America, where Chinese administrative systems blend with local governance. English? It's just another foreign language, like Dutch or Portuguese. The lingua franca of the New World? Mandarin. And that has global consequences. The Industrial Revolution happens. But maybe not in Manchester. It might begin in Hangzhou, powered by silver from Mexico and maize from Virginia. The great irony? China had the power, the ships, the people, everything it needed to shape the future. But it chose silence. Where Europe saw the oceans as escape routes, China saw them as threats. And so, The empire that could have ruled the world retreated behind its walls. History could have been rewritten. A world where the Great Wall became a bridge, where the dragon touched the eagle and changed it forever. But in 1433, they turned back.